What's up, folks, and welcome back to Dyce Reacts, where we are staying in Australia tonight. Oh yeah, we are going to be checking out 10 words I'm shocked Australians say differently. Very much side checks one out. We ain't going to waste no more time. We're just going to get right into it, folks. We're going to get right into it. Oh yeah.
Living in Australia sometimes feels like living in a parallel universe, and I'm not even exaggerating. I once asked for a vitamin, and the chemist looked at me as if I'd kicked her dog. So these are the 10 words that I can't believe Aussies say differently from Brits. Let's get into it. Hey mate, welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Sam, a British actor documenting my journey of rebuilding my life in Australia. Now, I have to say, I adore Australians. I married one, okay? And I adore the accent. The first one is Almond. My wife, who born and raised in Brisbane, Australia, she says almond. Almond? Ooh. I'm like, what are you on about, almond? It doesn't even remotely sound like you're trying to say the L in the word. Now look, I fell in love with an Australian and she brought me to Australia to see what I thought of it, and I fell in love with Australia too. I love living here. It's one of the best countries on the planet. But the first time someone came over to our place and asked us for some almond milk, I was like, what are you saying? Right, the more I say almond milk, which is what British people say, the more obnoxious I can hear myself sounding. Almond. Wow, it's actually quite grating, isn't it? If you're gonna say a word, at least say it how it's spelled. Now, look, I can feel people tippy-tapping on their keyboard right now going, well, that's not the rule with words, that we have silent letters and all of that. Fair. Valid. Hey, valid. But almond milk, come on, English speakers. You look at that word and you go, that's an L. That's an L, not an R. I don't see a H. Number 2 is the word capsicum. Now, if you're British, unless you're a botanist, you probably don't know what capsicum means. I'm making a very big claim there. Right, in the UK, and I'm pretty certain in the USA, it is bell pepper, because it's kind of shaped like a bell. Look, I can see we're reaching at that. Hear me out, right? When my wife and I first got together in Japan, we were dating. I was, working the old charm. What am I doing? I wanted to cook some dinner for her. And I think she offered to help me in the kitchen. She was looking through the ingredients in the fridge, and she said, oh, do you need this capsicum? I whipped my head around and I said, like, sorry, what did you just call my mother? She was like, no, what are you on about? Do you need this capsicum? I said, I don't know what you've done to that bell pepper, but it's not called that. I said to her, how many other words have you changed in Australia? Anyway, after a long discussion with her, obviously falling more and more in love with me, I had to Google it. And clear as day, Wikipedia talks about a bell pepper original plant name being capsicum. So, I have to hand it to her. So academically, Aussies
I learned something.
Are 100% correct when they say capsicum. But bad news and good news, bell peppers are so expensive here in Brisbane, Australia, that we never buy them anyway. I swear, when I go to Aldi, it's like $6 for one singular green capsicum. I'm like, it's not even the good one. Number 3 is towel. Now, how would you say towel now? Wherever you are, whoever you're with, just say out loud for me, towel. When you've done that, I'm hearing at least 2 syllables, towel, right? You say the EL at the end or the WEL, whatever. We're getting into the finicky parts. This one wrecks me, right? Because the Aussies, especially my wife, will just say towel. And she'll just get rid of the W and E in the word, and it'll just disappear, and it'll be towel. And you kind of think maybe it's towel, but with her, it just sounds like towel. Anyway, after much confusion and, her falling more and more in love with me, obviously, I said, oh, you mean towel. Okay, yes, here's your towel. I said, please, be clearer with your... No, I wouldn't say that to her. That would be horrible. But anyway, you learn to hear like an Aussie before you even speak like one. And that's what I'm learning more and more. Every single day I live in Australia, assimilating into the culture. I have to train my ear before I train my voice. Wow, you can quote me on that. That was a good one. Vitamin. Okay, Brits. I think both Australia and the USA are against us on this one. Not just vitamin, they'll soften that T, which actually I think that's quite cute. I quite like that, I have to say. When we say vitamin, it's also like tight in the jaw. It's also clenched. It's like, chill out, man. Calm yourself down. Now look, I learned this one again from my wife. Font of all knowledge in my life, obviously. I learned how to say vitamin. much sooner on than I
Vitally.
needed to before, you know, going to the pharmacy or the doctors. If I get an audition through here in Australia and the script says vitamin, you know I'm gonna have to practice my vitamin. Garage, oh, it's a classic, isn't it? Garage.
nice one.
I remember when I first heard an American say garage, and because I was watching a garage, look at me, I'm saying it, a garage band tutorial. Back when I was 15 years old and I thought I was Billy Joel himself, I was trying to make all my tunes on garage band. The guy was like, hey there, welcome back to garage band. And I thought, oh my word, can you imagine saying it like that? And then I go and fall in love with an Australian and she's like, oh, do you want to just put that in the garage? And I go, no, please tell me Australians don't say it like that. Number 6 is data. Brits
Yes,
say
this
data,
is one.
Aussies say data.
Data.
And they do that thing again where they soften the T. Right, it's data. It is, come on, you can't put a T.
Take a pause there. I prefer saying data. For some reason, I prefer saying data. Data sounds, I mean, it's accurate, but it just doesn't sound, for me, it doesn't come off the tongue nicely. Data. Data sounds more professional. Makes you feel better about yourself. Makes you feel like a professional. Yes. Where's the data? Nah. Where's the data? Now, that's good. We'll take it back just a bit.
Thing again where they soften the T. Right, it's data. It is, come on, you can't put a T in the middle of 2 A's and, you know, just leave it, just softly tipple it, you know? Tipple it, is that a word? I understand that, I'm adding a Y in there, all right? Just ignore that, but come on, data. Look, I know I'm giving it a lot here, right? But don't worry, I can also take the heat. She gives it a lot back. After a while, you just have to adapt your lingo for the person that you love, because if you don't, it's just going to make it difficult. So I will purposefully use Australian vocabulary, and the longer you live here, the more you realise that it kind of is like a different language. I now say doona instead of duvet. I now say devo instead of devastated. I now say arvo instead of afternoon. And honestly, I quite like it. Number 7 is yogurt. UK, yogurt makes perfect sense to me. You know, yo, yeah man. Oh, okay, right. I can already see the flaw in this. Bear with me. Aussies say yogurt. And when Maddie said yogurt to me for the first time in Japan,
That's
my
what I
mind was
said.
blown. She was like, no, we've always called it that. And I thought, since when? Since when? I thought, and you know, the first time I said yogurt in front of Maddie, she laughed at me. I thought, wait, why are you laughing at me? Going back to the start of this, I can understand, right? It doesn't quite make sense when we say yogurt, because you would say yo for yo-yo or yo man. Do I still say yogurt to the person at the Yochi counter? Yes, I do. And that's all I say. They'll say, hey, how you going? And I'll say yogurt. And then they kick me out. Language, it's like cultural muscle memory. And mine is very much out of sync here. I am working on it though. Trust me, I am working on it. Number 8 is pasta. Now, I say pasta. Brits say pasta. Aussies say pasta.
Okay. I said
Not
like,
sure
like a
about
brick.
that one. Pasta, you know, so much beautiful cultural history in one word. The Italians who gifted us this delicious food. And Aussies, even though they hear the Italian and go pasta, they have to go pasta. Oh my gosh, do Italians say pasta? Wait, I need to look now. Wait, I need to look, because that means I'm actually right. Oh my gosh, maybe I just need to retitle this entire video, Watch British Guy Get Every Word Wrong. Oh my word. Italian pronounce pasta.
Pasta.
To be fair, I think I'm wrong. I think I'm wrong. Because that sounds more, to me, that sounds more like pasta than pasta. Oh my word. Are the Brits just wrong about all of these words? Oh my days. Right. Moving on. Number 9 is card. Now, okay, right. Surely 1 point to Sam for this one. Card, right? Card. Aussies will say card. I'm overdoing it there. Actually, no, I'm not. There's quite a lot of very broad accented Aussies who say card. And sometimes it's so harsh that you kind of can't understand what they say, at least for me anyway. Card seems simple. So with the Aussie accent, they pronounce it more like this, you know.
Car.
There's almost like no R in it at all. It's like a car. Now, to be completely honest with you, it is really funny, right? Because I will be here for like many months at a time and only go visit the UK for a couple of months to, you know, catch up with family, maybe do Christmas Day, all of that stuff. And they'll catch me saying Aussie words like doona. Yeah, when I catch myself forgetting certain like British words that I would normally say, I remind myself, oh yeah, like the UK is still my home, and while Australia is my home as well, and I really love it here. I sometimes, you know, that homesickness creeps in. Number 10, finally, Paywave. What is Paywave? Paywave, right, is when you take your card or your Apple Pay or your Google Pay and you just tap on the machine and the payment goes through. In the UK, we call that contactless. And I love that word. But Paywave's such an interesting one because I tried saying contactless here and no one got it. Fair enough if you don't say it here. Right, Paywave, is that a company name? Yeah, but where does it so it comes from Visa, does it? Is that the company? Let's just guess that's the company because honestly, can't be asked to find out. It's just a bit weird. Wait, so then did Visa call it contactless in the UK? Because if so, why did they? Yeah, it's called contactless in the UK, and it says that on the Visa website, but it's called Paywave in Australia. You would have thought these global companies would have had, you know, global conference calls with each other and gone, oh, should we all agree on a name together? And they go, yeah, what about Paywave? What about contactless? Maybe the Brits didn't want to call it Paywave and Aussies didn't want to be like the Brits. So now look, my Aussie lingo skills might not be the best in the world, but what I've got pretty good at learning is knowing exactly what the secret rules are that tourists keep breaking. Their unspoken rules that they won't tell you at the airport. So if you want to find out what they are, go watch this video right now. Thank you so much for watching to the end. It means a lot. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
This was really interesting. I'm from a little island in the Caribbean, and we have a lot of different words people say differently, but I was thinking that everything, like when you think of it, I was thinking that many of the accents maybe like come from like American accent or British accent, but I'm seeing there's a lot of things that we say here that sounds Australian as you described there, and I'm just seeing that. Now you can't blame us, you know. I came from an island called Saint Lucia. 7 times British, 7 times French. So you know what? We don't know which language to actually speak. That happened many times in our history. So you gotta give us a break. But I'm seeing that we have a lot of Australian, not accents, but words that we say that are more Australian than British or even American. And that's an eye opener there. So some words are really common to say a certain way, especially in the Australian accent. And I don't think I ever thought about it being an Australian accent. But now I'm seeing many things that we say not just from Australia, but common accents that we see for a lot of words are maybe from different countries, and we just all loop it together thinking it's British or American. Kind of crazy as I'm checking this out now. But like when I was very young, I used to think that in America that all the accents were the same, until I started hearing different accents in different states when I look at certain movies and stuff like that. We find out about Tennessee, Texas, Memphis, or maybe they're from the south side. You could hear some of the not just the accent, but sometimes the terminology as well that they use can give it away to the influences in terms of where they're from on the map. Yeah. This was very interesting. He said some very interesting things, and I guess you gotta adapt to the country that you're in, especially if you want to communicate better, especially in public, because sometimes you say words, because even down here where I am, sometimes we have to speak a certain way especially foreigners to understand what we're saying. For the most part, we speak very good English compared to other Caribbean countries, but we also have an accent that they can hear. It's not really this. It's not really like they could pinpoint and say that we have Australian accents or British accents, but they can hear that we have an accent that is unique to them. But from our perspective, we don't hear that. It's just the way it is. When you're in something for so long, for example, you don't really hear any difference until you get a comparison. If you want to see that long journal outro that I do, hit me over Dyce Reacts, where I do music reactions. This way, I'm going to be making my exits. So until next time, peace out.